Hey everybody, Zach here at etrailer.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Swagman Quad 2+2 on our 2019 Honda Odyssey. This is going to be a really nice bike rack for your family, or if you're looking to get a bunch of friends to a trail and go on a trip together. But the nice thing about this is it's versatile. So let's say you don't always take the kids with you, you're not always taking friends with you. You can cut this down to just a 2-bike. So this entire back half right here, you remove the bolts right here, it goes down into a 2-bike. So you have a much smaller bike rack throughout the week whenever we don't need to take everybody with us. So I like that I have options with this bike rack. Now, with the platform style bike rack, I like this style because I think it's easier to get things loaded. I personally prefer them over a hanging style bike rack just because things are more organized. It's not as tight. Running the risk of damaging our bikes is a little bit lower. With those hanging style racks, you can get a lot more bikes on there at a smaller price, but you're going to scratch your bikes at some point with these. Now, this is going to be a frame mount style bike rack. So if you have a carbon bike, this isn't ideal for you. With this mountain bike here today, you can see how this hook goes around that top tube right there and holds this into place down into these wheel cradles. You can see how there's a strap there on each wheel that holds this down. Now this only works with tires up to 3 inches in width. If you have a fat bike or something that has larger tires than the 3 inches, you can pick up an adapter kit to accommodate that. And when it comes to what type of bikes you can carry, the 45-pound capacity is pretty high. So that's going to be a lot of bikes. But if you're getting into like electric bikes or those fat bikes, that really limits you to what you can carry. But most standard road and mountain bikes, I think you're going to be okay. Now, when it comes to taking this off, you have a couple different options. I'm going to lower this down just to kind of show you what it's like. You can get that out of the way there. What you're going to do is you're going to take these straps and you're going to press this button and lower those right, or take that off. And then to put it back in place, it just slides down in. And then you can see there's a nice rubber pad right there to keep from your wheels getting scratched up. So we'll take that off right there. We'll go to the other side. And what I like about this one is that it's metal wheel cradles. A lot of them are going to be plastic or they'll have hoops. And I prefer this style. It makes me feel a little bit more confident that it's going to last a little bit longer. Now, one thing with Swagman's bike racks, I think that you get a lot of bike rack for the money. So there are definitely nicer bike racks out there, but I think for getting a 4-bike, good working style platform bike rack, this is a really good value for you. And I think that all of the components in it kind of show it. So we'll get this cradle here lifted up out of the way, or this hook, excuse me. And then how you do that is you just press those buttons right there, and then you raise that up. And then you can hear that grab onto it. So it essentially kind of ratchets down and holds our bike into place. Now the padding on this is really dense. So there's some out there that are foam and those tend to break down. I think this is going to hold up for a while. Now it is pretty hard. So if your bike shifted in there, you didn't have it down all the way, you may have some scuffs on that top tube. But it's better than the plastic that's going to scratch it, or that foam that's eventually going to kind of break down and expose that metal underneath. So that does a really good job there. So we can get our bike out of the way. Be careful to not hit the back end there. And we can take a closer look at some of the components now that this is out of the way. Now, one thing with this bike rack is I like that each one of these hooks has a lock on it. So we can lock them all in place. So whether we have 1 or 4 bikes on there, we can have them all locked down. And that's going to be key to like with the lock that's down at the hitch that we'll take a look at here in a minute. We'll get those down into place. Now, taking a closer look at the cradle with the bike removed, you can see we had a mountain bike in there, but it has a nice little groove in here for road bikes with those smaller tires. You can get that out of the way. Now, one thing with this one, you can see it there. There's a little bit of movement there and how this holds on to the frame of this bike rack. And that's could be tightened a little bit, but even then it's still pretty loose. So that style is kind of one thing that I'm not a huge fan of, but there's going to be a lot of bike racks that have that issue. But that allows you, when you loosen it up, to move this up and down this arm right here to accommodate bikes with different wheelbases. So that's really nice. We got a lot of range there. so we can get this held in place. And I'm going to lower this arm as well. And there's a little pull tab back here. So we pull up on that, get that held down in place, and you can hear that click in place. So that's how that is going to secure down. So this is when, if we need to get into the back of our Odyssey, with this one we have a really long hatch here. So it's hard to get around the hatches on the vans, but being able to take our bikes off and get into the back is really the only way you can do this. You know, a lot of platform style bike racks, you can tilt them away with the bikes on there. But with the Odyssey having such a large hatch, a lot of them still have issues with contact, even with the bikes tilted away. So it's one of those things where you're still going to have issues with it. But before I get this tilted up, I'm going to give you some measurements. Another thing with it having this long or this wider spot right here is I like that I can kind of get in here and kind of work with my bikes on this closer to my vehicle, where some bike racks, they sit real close and you kind of have to reach over. So the spacing on this is pretty nice too. Now adding to the back of our vehicle here, from the bumper to the furthest point back here, it's going to be this cradle, and that's at about 46 inches. So we're adding a pretty significant amount of length to the back of our vehicle, so we need to keep that in mind. And with the Odyssey, it does have a lower hitch, but you can see that rise down there in the shank. So the platform sits up quite a bit higher. But I'm going to give you a measurement here just to let you know what your ground clearance is. That's at about 18 3/4. I think you're going to be okay in most situations. Maybe very steep driveways, you might have some issues, but for the most part, you're going to be okay. And that's where the sturdy steel construction is going to come in play. Now the closest point will be right here at this pivot point, and that's going to measure to our bumper at about 4 3/4 of an inch. So plenty of room there. We're going to be okay. Now when it comes time to storing this, you may leave this on throughout the week. I probably wouldn't personally, but let's say you take this on vacation, or you take it to the trailhead and you want to save some spot or some space in the back of the car, or the parking space, excuse me. What you'd do is you'd come and you'd pull this pin and clip right here. And you can lift up a little bit and pull that clip out. And then, since this doesn't tilt away, it doesn't fall down, but what we can do is we can come back here, we can lift up on it and tilt this closer to the vehicle. So you can already see how much space we're saving. So we're not going to be that guy or girl that's leaving our bike rack hanging out into the road there. So we got plenty of space to get this lined up and save some spots there. Now it does take a little bit of effort to get that to line up. Get that put in place. Kind of got myself tangled up a little bit, but can get that wrapped around there. Now you can see that's held in place. So even if we were driving down the road, that's going to hold in place. But let's get you a measurement here I misplaced my tape measure. Oh, it's right down here, excuse me. And that's going to add about 12 inches to the back of our vehicle. And real quick, before I forget, I should put that back down so I can give you that measurement with that 2-bike. That's probably a good measurement to know too. But also, before I do that, we'll get the closest point here. And that's going to be about 5 inches. So plenty of room there. Let me get this tilted down again. Just in case you do decide to use this as a 2-bike, it does save you a ton of space. From our bumper, the cradle is going to be the back part there, and that'll be 26 inches. So it's about 20 inches. That's going to save you a ton of space if it's not necessary to have the 4. Hopefully I have a little bit better luck getting this lined up this time. So it is a tight fit, but that's how you get so little play out of it. And then if we take a closer look down here at the hitch, you can see this only works with 2-inch hitches, so it's class 3. And then we have this included anti-rattle bolt and lock, which is really nice. So we don't really have to pick up anything else unless we have a fat bike and we're looking at those adapters to it. You can see there's no shake and play out of that. It's moving the whole vehicle. So we've got a really nice setup. I like it that I can take all my family or all my friends with me. It's going to do a good job. Swagman makes really nice stuff. Everything's really sturdy with this bike rack. I think you're going to be pretty happy with it. But that's going to do it for our look at the Swagman Quad 2+2 on our 2019 Honda Odyssey.
Once we get to the full speed bumps, we'll see the up and down action. This will be just like driving in and out of a parking lot, parking garage, or driveway. Once we get to the alternating speed bumps, we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or pothole or driving over uneven pavement.